Okay, great. So we already have over 100 people. So again, hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ivan Kravtsov. I'm a senior OSINT analyst at the OSINT unit of social links. And today we're having a webinar on the usage of OSINT and the usage of our line of products for private investigators. But the logic of how that can be applied extrapolates to other types of industries as well. So initially, we will start with a few words about us. We are an investigations and intelligence software developing firm. We specialize in streamlining data-driven investigations. We have had multiple industrial awards. We are featured on Gartner Peer Insights, G2, industrial research agencies such as Frost & Sullivan. We currently have 100+ employees with 3 offices listed here. We work internationally in different jurisdictions and with different clients from different industries. So all of the macro regions that you can see listed here. We traditionally have had a line of products with Social Links Professional being available for Maltego and I2 Analyst Notebook, as well as Spiderfoot, which is not listed here, with capabilities for installation into a closed perimeter, which is SL Private Platform, with API availability, and also a almost freshly, the most recent release is Social Links CrimeWall, which is our proprietary intelligence analytics platform, which we will also touch on within today's presentation. What we strive to do is to cover the full cycle of investigations from the input phase to the reporting phase. And right now we're going to go into some examples that are relevant to today's topics. Among other things, we will be showing some of our new functionality, which has to do with niche sources that are not social media specifically. Well, social media being our traditional key strength and key area of focus for some time. So let's start. And now we're going to go into our first initial graph, the first example. And we will start with something as simple as starting with an email address of a person of interest. So here we have a number of methods listed for various sources with which the analyst can fetch various types of data from the initial piece. They are automated to a second degree within Social Links Professional and partially within CrimeWall, some of the things that we are doing now, into scripts that include the available methods into sets that run in a certain sequence. So right now we see an email address of an individual. We initially get a profile within LinkedIn. We can further do cross searches from the username. The LinkedIn profile contains some metadata as the screen name, the face, and some details about the person's CV. Also, there are a number of platforms where we see the user has an account. And further, the transforms are going to extract additional data points from those. Yes, I see that there are some questions already. The webinar is being recorded, and the webinar will be available on our official YouTube channel as all the others are. Yes, also we're extracting the Google ID, which we will further get from this intermediary hourglass entity. And some other transforms are left to be ran. While that is being done, we're also going to do a cross search with facial recognition to see whether the individual is available in any other kind of sources. And this quickly gets us an account within Facebook and an account within Twitter. As well as with the machine completed, we have extracted the current stated place of work and the current stated location, which is Murray, Kentucky, United States. This individual has been, they are not a criminal, they are not from any specific case, they have been related to a person, well, they have been affiliated with a person that has been featured in the Murray, Kentucky murders more than 20 years ago or something around that from now in the United States. But here we are just using them as a sample. So further, whenever we get a social media account, we can further extract various types of data, such as the user groups, general details, pages they have liked, posts that they have posted, the content that they have been tagged in, the content that they interact with. Another relatively recent, interesting addition that might be of use in private investigators' cases is Facebook marketplaces, where we will see the items listed by the person, from which we can further extract the locations, the designated locations for the sale of those items. And that may be interesting for us from the point of view of whether that constitutes a certain geographical pattern, perhaps. Also, additionally, we have custom methods for facial recognition, which can let us not just search by a face and name, but also search by a face and profile. So for instance, there is this photograph with 3 people, and there is a certain account, and we search for faces which are present within that photo additionally, aside from the author. Another widely spread basic input from which an investigator can start their work from an OSINT perspective is a phone number. So here we have 2, and we start enriching them in a logic similar to what we just did with the emails. Those 2 phone numbers are related to the widely known commercial entity Ashley Madison, and specifically its founder. So we start getting some locations, we start getting some organizations, and we start getting some additional digital identifiers such as handles and emails, from which we can, of course, pivot further. Yes, I see that there are 2 questions already. We will be answering most of the questions closer to the end of the session. One is your program relative to Canada, given our tight privacy laws? So yes, we do work with all jurisdictions, and we do have, of course, non-disclosable, but we do have some customers within Canada and within North America in general that use our products and that use this successfully. And there's another one about whether there's any reason for me not running the latest Maltego version. Yes, the reason for that is that I did not update that yet, but thank you very much for the heads up. I will see what other interesting things are in the newer version, of course. Now, the new features that we have are related to niche sources, and the ones that we will cover today are TripAdvisor, Duolingo, the language app, PayPal, and OnlyFans. So those partially have either some things in place that are usually a characteristic of social media, and also have some extended functionality, which is very similar to conventional social media. And so the first input for that is a username. Let's look up those profiles on TripAdvisor. And once we get an account, we can further extract the general details, the followees and followers, similar to how we would do it within Instagram or Twitter, the forum posts, photos, and reviews. Yes, I see another question. It is correct. CrimeWall does not need Maltigo and does not need Analyst Notebook. That is one of the things that are its characteristics. So here we have the accounts that follow this one. We have the stated location. We have the TripAdvisor reviews, and we have the photos. So from the followers, we can extract their details and their followers and followees to see whether there will be a certain pattern or a certain major intersection. And from the reviews, if we have a review entity originally, like from a URL, we can get it softer. And also, we can get the details of that review, which we're going to do now, from 10 of them to not take up too much of our time. And the same can be done with photograph entities. Of course, there is some metadata. There is the photograph itself. There is the number of helpful posts, reposts, trips, the name of the location, and the creation date. And some of those contacts may include the contacts of the reviewed place within TripAdvisor, such as the email and the phone. Now we're going to do those same things with the second account, which has the Jamaican flag. And if an analyst does not know what that is specifically, they can, of course, run a reverse image search either into Google or Yandex and see what the most common result is. So that is something similar, very similar in principle to general social media and to a feature that we have for extracting Google reviews and then extracting the GPS coordinates and timestamps out of those reviews based on the Google ID. Now we're going to go into the second one, which is Duolingo. Here we have two accounts, two usernames, and we're going to get the Duolingo profiles from those ones. With this particular one, there is also an account within another source that is not related to Duolingo. I think that most likely, of course, that is a coincidence because people tend to be more careful these days than in the days of Ross Ulbricht and Alexandra Casas. So those are dark web marketplaces accounts within several sources. But coming back to Duolingo, also there are details, followees, and followers. And by details, that means the language that the person either speaks according to Duolingo or the language that they are currently learning. And here, aside from the geographical pattern, because stated locations can also be a part of a profile, there can be linguistic patterns. For instance, a person has 30 followers and 30 followees, and those profiles, and out of those 30, 20, the intersecting 20, for instance, have two specific languages which are widely spread as being learned by them, and additional languages being the second wider spread. And here we can apply some conditional formatting that is in place within both Maltigo and Analyst Notebook, and will also soon be in place within CrimeWall, and look at those specific patterns. Now, two other sources are PayPal and OnlyFans. There is less data that we can extract from that, partially due to the specifics of resources, partially due to the limitations that those platforms impose from a user perspective, but the basic premise is that we start from a username, and then we usually get an account, which can contain a screen name in addition to the username, the type of currency that we use, and their photograph or another kind of profile picture. And here, what we do, let me just delete all of this. We further apply facial recognition for a cross search. As we did in this with the server account as well, where we have identified related accounts, well, to the same person within TikTok and within Twitter. And further, we can work with those conventional social media, which tend to be richer in terms of data in the ways that we have explored a few minutes ago with Facebook and with LinkedIn. And another new addition in terms of sources is OnlyFans, where, again, the basic premise is a username. And many people would be surprised to how many people actually have, not creators, but consumers of content, actually have their real name and a photograph listed on their OnlyFans accounts. We see whether the account is set to private, whether there is a paid subscription, the date of creation and last visit, the numbers of likes, photos, videos, streams, and posts. Also here, there is a profile picture, which is a screenshot seemingly from an Instagram story that contains a username. And we further extract that onto the graph. And we find two additional accounts that do belong to the same person within Instagram and within TikTok. And from creator accounts, we can also additionally extract the posts that the profiles have made, but that takes a bit more of running time. And this here is another account that we have tried with just now, with a profile picture, but with less related data. So now we're waiting for the details also to load. We can see the screen name, the profile picture, whether, again, it is private, the stated location, and some other characteristics. Now we're also going to review the type of functionality that we have for business registries, for government registries. And here, those are 4 entities related to religious organizations. And we're going to try Companies House, the British Companies House for that. Also, with one of them, there is a domain name that we can see from which we can also pivot, especially using Maltigo's standard network functionality. So whenever we get a representation of an organizational entity, we can get the stated correspondence addresses, officers, and people stated to have a significant degree of control within the entity. For instance, here we see that those 2 entities are not just UK-based, but have the same correspondence address, which we can see in the form of a location here, 1 Kingdom Way, West Hanningfield, Chelmsford, Essex, UK. And other interesting things are whether those company officers have any intersection of additional organizations being assigned to them. And the research of I wouldn't say religious organizations, but I think that is something that might be more relevant to North America, religious cult organizations and potentially destructive, unhealthy religious cult organizations. The premise is that they are less likely to have an extensive social media presence and an extensive digital presence in general, but part of that will still be represented in the registries through organizational entities, partially due to those having, like in the case of the US originating 12 tribes organizations that we're going to that we're going to explore in the next graph, having small enterprises like a network of restaurants or cafes to produce a financial basis for the organization's existence and sustenance. And this here is exactly that. So Yellow Deli is international, very largely US-based, but having also operations in Europe and Australia and Asia, chain of restaurants that belong factually to that religious organizations, which is the 12 tribes, which is an obvious reference to the biblical 12 tribes of Israel. So this here is an American religious group, and a search into open corporates gives us output in forms of organizations that all have the yellow deli but different locations within them. What is interesting is that some organizations and some people, there are some locations which are listed in a wider range of people records, such as what we see here, which may point us to the thought that this location is potentially somehow more important within the operations of the org, and it may be more key within their organizational structure. The same can be said about people who are listed as employees or as CEOs or otherwise company officers within locations that are all related to the same group, but that are in different locations. So that may also point us to the assumption that they are either more important in general within the organizational structure, or that they are somehow more responsible for the commercial part for the sustenance of the org. So now we're going to go into the new solution that I have been talking about like a few minutes ago. Yes, and also, can we investigate websites as well? Yes, forgot that point. We're going to jump back to the previous graph with Jehovah's Witnesses. So here there is a domain, jw.org. We have some features for websites and for network infrastructure entities in general, but that is not our key focus. However, if our client is using Maltigo as their basic visualization and analytics platform, Maltigo originally has a number of features that are related to that specifically. So for instance, capabilities to search for PDF type files or emails related to a domain, or enumerate the network infrastructure, well, rather map out the network infrastructure. So what we're seeing here, the extraction of name servers, mail exchange servers, related DNS records, and the further resolution of those records and server entities to IP addresses, and further resolution of those to NUT blocks and autonomous system numbers to see whether that will constitute a specific pattern. Very good question about, thank you for the comment on the dopeness. I agree absolutely that this is quite dope indeed. The reliability aspect is something that we will come back to in a few minutes after going through CrimeWall. So there are several important points about the software. The first is that what we are trying to do and what we are keeping in mind in the process of product development is that we want to take everything that is good about the existing solutions that have become the industry standard, which are Analyst Notebook, Maltego, Spiderfoot, and other ones, but make it somewhat more user-friendly and make it somewhat more accessible to a wider possible range of analysts. Because there are one of the reasons, obviously, is that there are likely to be people within teams, and there are likely to be clients in certain types of industries that are somewhat less technical and that may be a bit less comfortable with something like Maltego, which is very cool, but it has a very engineer-ish sort of vibe. So right now we're going again through a basic example with a phone. We are enriching it. And while that is running, we can see the elements sub-panel, much like in Maltego. We can see the navigation, which we can use for grepping, for performing an advanced search throughout either the whole document or the whole project. Another important point, there is an hierarchy of data units here. So the most basic one is an element. Then elements are arranged into documents, and this is a document that we're looking at. Documents are arranged into projects. Projects are arranged into data spaces. An analogy, for instance, with LEA work, with which many in the private investigating business would be familiar with due to their previous backgrounds, widely spread, is a document can be related to a specific person or incident. A project can be related to a group of people. And a data space is something that can be everything that a department or an agency or a group has investigated previously and has currently in terms of data and information on a transnational organized crime group or another large organized crime group. So here and here there is the methods subpanel with the general listing of methods, and once we select a certain element, the methods available for that particular one, with the capability for monitoring, meaning that the analyst can set a specific method to be ran on an element every 12, 24, or 36 hours. And that does not imply having this software, which, as you can see, is web-based, being left to operate in without turning it off for some time. So the user can log out and then come back in 12 days or 12, well, yes, it could be days, of course, in 12 hours or 24 or 36 hours, and then see what updates the software has brought in. So now there's the ISC entity. Also from the phone, my colleague has launched a general poll with several questions. Please answer those. That is highly valuable, and that is highly valuable for us. So each element has properties, as you can see. Properties can be modified, properties can be added, and properties can be extracted into their separate respective types of elements, such as this Facebook ID here. And once the key property is filled in and in place, we can run the next method. Also, there's the tasks subpanel, so we see the tasks that have been either completed or are currently running within the document, the project, and all of our account. Further, we follow the standard workflow after getting a social media account, so getting the user details, stated locations, groups and the pages they have liked within the specifics of Facebook, stated places of education and work, and another basic, easy, best practice facial recognition-based cross-search. Now, the document is not limited to just a graph, which can be viewed in different ways. There are different layouts, of course, hierarchical and radial, and the way the elements look can also be modified. So let's make it image label, so that is more clear to us which entity is which. But also, the user can go into table mode, where they can also run a method on an element and where the entities can be sorted by type and where all of this can be exported into a CSV file in case you want to work with it in some other type of instrument that you're using. And the geospatial, the geographical mode, the map, is also available. So here we see 3 locations within this map that is based on the graph as a key part of the document. We see Kabul, Afghanistan, where this person has stated to work at the Hamid Karzai International Airport. We see a place not far from Mumbai, India, where they have went at some point. If we highlight a certain entity, if we choose that geographical location within the map, if we come back to the graph, it's going to be highlighted as well. And that extrapolates to properties of elements and not just separate elements. And Calgary, Alberta, Canada, another place stated within their Facebook profile, which is the place where they are supposedly currently based. Another important point is that this is newly released, and there are some features that we are working on and that will be released soon, such as the content view, where the user will be able to work with large volumes of text, for instance, using named entity recognition, and the timeline, similar to how that is implemented in i2Analyst Notebook, which will be a representation of the chronological order of all of the elements that have a date-time property within them. So to go through some other examples, here, this is an individual which we have been exploring in one of the previous webinars, a Brazilian hacker that was convicted and put to prison at some point. This is part of their digital footprints. So the email address, the LinkedIn account, the metadata from LinkedIn, the Google reviews that they have left for various places. So let's ungroup those. Additional emails, usernames, which we can see here, accounts within MySpace, Steam, and Twitter. And another important feature here that we're going to highlight is especially, it may be interesting for those of you who work with machines within Maltego. So those are scripts for second-degree automation, which we have also used within the examples that we've presented about 20 minutes ago. This is an example of one such script in the code editor for email enrichment that we have used. So some people are comfortable with working in code editors. Some are less comfortable, understandably. And so the script builder that we have implemented follow a slightly different type of logic on the front end, this is based on visual programming. So there are operations, logical operations for the software, and there are listed methods. So for instance, this one is a script to get a social graph of the user within Steam. So we initially run the collector Steam get friends. And then for each of the result, we run that collector again, we merge the duplicates and output this in. Coming back to our primal examples. The first page that the user sees when they initially log into their account. There is user access management in place. Everybody within the team can either see the data spaces of other colleagues, or that can be configured in different ways depending on the workflow within the specific team. And there is a search bar here that prompts us to enter some kind of basic input and then run an initial script to start getting data from that. So now we're going to our next example, which is related to dark web vendor. This is also something that a person, the digital footprint of which we have been exploring in some of our previous webinars. So there's the username. There are the products that the user is specialized in. The script that has been ran here has subsequently extracted some of the properties of those product positions. And something which is potentially more interesting, further we go to the PGP open key, which is specified in the user account metadata here, among other things. And from that, we go to an email address, which we further enrich, that giving us the Skype account with a screen name and with a stated location. a LinkedIn profile with a slightly different but similar screen name and also a stated location and also university. An account within Gravatar with a screen name and a profile picture the same as in the Google ID, and the fact of an account existing within Tumblr. And then from the Google ID, we extract a location that is a bar in the same place, the same vicinity that we have extracted from Skype. Again, also this can be viewed within a table. With different properties being related to different different lines within that table, of course, and on a map. And the representation that we are going to see here is within this area. And now to our next document, where our initial input is a hashtag, also from one of the sample use cases we've been exploring in one of the previous webinars with Mr. Gary Ruddle. That is a hashtag related to a territorial dispute between South Korea and Japan, the Takto or Liancourt or Takeshima, depending on the personal stance of the person on that issue. And here we see the tweets, which are grouped because there's a lot of them. The subsequently extracted profiles of authors and the stated locations of those authors. And here what we're going to see on a map is something that is going to constitute an obvious pattern. So there are some profiles discussing this within North America and within Western Europe and within Australia even, but more of them are in Northeast Asia and especially, of course, in South Korea and in Japan, with users in South Korea being generally more active, at least within Twitter, at least with that specific hashtag. So yes, this is a general overview of CrimeWall. Those of you who are interested in this new awesome thing, by all means, write us an email, and we're going to discuss how that can be implemented and implemented into your organizations and applied to your specific use cases. And now we're going to go to the brief Q&A session. So yes, the first one about reliability of transforms. They are quite reliable in general. False positives are more likely, of course, when we use a broader type of search input, such as a personal name, because those can be quite widespread, as you understand. And it's part of the competence of the analyst to filter and verify all the things. But one of the things that our software is good at and something that we're aiming at in the long run is to make it easier and to lessen the amount of time that needs to be dedicated to that so the analyst can focus more on the analytical work, on the more in-depth analytical work. Can all of this information be retrieved from private profiles as well? That depends on the profile and the type of data. So even if a profile is fully set private, there is still some metadata such as the screen name, the ID, the profile picture, which can be a photograph, and from that we can do further cross searches. Well, SL dashboard, well, I assume that CrimeWall can qualify as an SL dashboard in that sense. Yes, certainly. Is social links available for very small PI agencies? Yes, absolutely, of course. So we do have clients who are private investigators and who run small businesses in that industry. So yes, definitely. There isn't a limitation to just law enforcement or government entities or anything like that. Okay, do we have data sets for South Africa? We have capabilities that extend to South Africa and to the South African Republic and other countries in that region. So it is not limited. Some sources, of course, are limited to specific jurisdictions, such as the British Companies House or the ICAG offshore leagues, which focus on island jurisdictions. But in general, as we have clients all over the world, the functionality and the capabilities are applicable to different countries. Okay, what can SL extract the data in real time? The data is extracted in real time. It's not historical. It's not something that we store somewhere. Okay. Now, some additional questions. I will go to another part of the slides. First of all, I specifically am from the OSINT unit, which is called the Center of Excellence within our company. If you are interested in some kinds of collaboration, or if you would like to solicit some kind of help for your use cases, or discuss potentially a project of integration of our products into your work, then, well, the last one is, of course, more to the commercial department, but here, the people listed from our team and our contact email. We are all OSINT analysts, but we have slightly different specializations and slightly different domains of knowledge that are specific to each of us. And there was a question about pricing. To get a specific quote, first, we would highly encourage you to get acquainted with us. So write to us at either hello@sociallinks.io or sales@sociallinks.io. So yes, now to go through some other questions which I might have overlooked. Yes, there are tutorials and instructions available. There are webinars similar to this one recorded on YouTube. There are small videos for specific types of data for specific types of functionality. Suppose we received an image of a protest event. Can it be possible to identify the protest event by analyzing that particular image? Reverse image searches can be helpful if there is a username or a name that you hypothesize belongs to a certain person in an image, then that can be a basis for using facial recognition. That looks very promising. Oh, great. Thank you, sir or lady. Now, thank you very much. The webinar is soon to end. SL Crime Wall can be represented in SaaS form or as an on-premise solution. And Crime Wall is an additional product, so if you're using SL Pro for Maltego, then we'll just need to discuss if you would like to switch to Crime Wall, how you would see that, and so on. Do we have any examples of being able to find an individual who is committing fraud in conjunction with people in government? Yes, there are use cases that are available through our website, white papers and use cases, and one of those involve, they are depersonalized, of course, for obvious reasons. And one of those is a case study about looking for unobvious hidden connections in procurement procedures. South America and Argentina. Yes, of course, covered. Yes, we would also very much like your government to implement this to avoid fraud, scam, and cyber threats. There are specific units that can be interested in this, and there are specific agencies, organizations that can be interested in this. So if you know everybody there, we'll be glad to discuss this with them. Do you have in toolset something for the authorship attribution? If we're talking about the authorship of content, then that is already in place. If we're talking about something more complex, such as digital asset protection, intellectual property protection, those are some of the use cases with which our clients work. Language translation. Yes, there is natural language processing. There is, by extension, named entity recognition, and there is a capability for translating in text into English. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I hope this was fun, and I hope this was useful. And we would be very glad to talk with you to discuss how we can be mutually beneficial and how this can be applied, how our products and our knowledge and our expertise can be applied to your specific work in your cases for all of us to build a safer and more open world. Thank you very much, everybody. And there are some questions that we have unfortunately left unanswered, but for those, again, highly encourage you to engage in more direct communication with us. Thank you again, and wishing you a good remainder of the week.